Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people that want the best info, but just don't have the time. Get your podcast fix with the Cliff Notes versions of your favorite podcasts. No fluff, just the actionable golden nuggets. Having this much knowledge at your fingertips should be downright illegal. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with Satori Prime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Ilan Ferdman. So if you haven't signed up to our PEP list to receive a recap email about this week's shows, make sure you head over to performancepodcasts.com. That's podcasts with an S at the end of it, so make sure you remember that. You can even pick up 6 hours of subliminal training when you sign up. That basically means now you can work on things like speed reading, memory, and even how to be more decisive through subliminal messaging just by listening. So make sure you do that. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed to our show via iTunes, you can also do that at performancepodcasts.com/iTunes. Or if you prefer to use Stitcher, you can do the same thing at performancepodcasts.com/Stitcher. And remember, we have new episodes coming out every Monday and Thursday morning, so you can grab those then. Lastly, if you want to keep up with everything that we do at Satori Prime, you can always head over to our main site, satoriprime.com, and roam around. We have a ton of free content that we constantly update. And if any of you are looking for some mentorship around your marketing efforts, and I'm talking specifically about Facebook paid marketing on how you can use that to double, triple, or even quadruple your business, then we do actually have a couple of masterminds we run that can absolutely transform your marketing efforts in less than 90 days. So you can check those out by applying to see if you're a fit for one of them at satoriprime.com/mastermind. And with that, let's kick off today's show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of Happy Corner with our sister from another mother, Stella Grisant. If you missed part 1, go back and check it out. As always, a lot of gems in there. But in this one, what we talk about is how to turn your accidents into a consistent method. So, sometimes you get lucky and you'll do something and it works really well, but then you have no idea how to replicate it. We're going to talk about how to turn those accidents into a method that you could repeat over and over again. Then we're going to delve into something interesting, which is the difference between extrinsic goals and intrinsic goals. And the reason why most of the time your goals aren't met probably has to do with this distinction. So make sure to listen for that. And then lastly, as we mentioned in part 1, Stella is actually hosting a free teleseminar on January 29th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where she's going to take you through a scientific process on how to achieve your goals. So if there have been goals in the past that you just put off, haven't achieved, blown off, think you're never going to have them, I recommend you just show up to this live event and figure out how to scientifically achieve those goals. So without further ado, here's part 2 of Happy Corner with Satori Prime and Stella Grisant. Yeah, I think what we've realized in coaching a lot of people is that their definition, and that's why Guy and I did it on the beer talk also, like their definition of goal setting and all that stuff is really skewed and it's not productive. Like the reason that Guy and I accomplished 95% of the goals as big as they were on our 2014 sheet without ever having looked at them again, which is a mistake, by the way, I'm clear. But that is because the process, like I'm sure what we're missing and what I'm looking forward to from this webinar is an actual distinction to the process. So sometimes like Guy and I remember when we created our first video sales letter, we made it and it was converting and it was great. And only like a year after did we learn what we did by accident that actually worked. By accident is great. I mean, it can get you great results, but actually knowing why you did something, like when I play tennis, right? I'll hit a great shot every once in a while. And I'm like, damn. And I'm like, I wish I knew what the hell I just did so that I can do it over and over. And I'm like, if I could just do that, 8 out of 10 times, I would be incredible. But I honestly have no idea why I just did that. And I think with goal setting, it's a big missing for people. They just like go through a process, but it's a shitty process.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what happens a lot of times is like let's use weight loss, because that's what a lot of people, New Year, it's like, that's like people are like, I want to lose 20 pounds. But what happens is they forget, to really ask themselves, well, what's that 20 pounds really about? What does this weight really mean for you? If you lose the 20 pounds, what's going to change for you? And so what I like to have people focus on is like, first, like, how is it that you want to feel? Like, imagine yourself thinner. What does that bring on? Because if it's about feeling sexy, if it's about feeling loved, if it's about feeling recognized, then there's infinite ways for you to meet that goal. And is that really the goal versus the 20 pounds? And and then if you lose the 20 pounds and you haven't really acknowledged what's so important to you, which is, the actual feelings that you want to feel, then you arrive and you're like, this sucks.
Yep.
And so there's no satisfaction. And so I think it's really important for people to examine, what's really driving my goals.
Totally. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Do you think, sorry to interrupt you there. Go ahead. Do you want to finish your thought?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Do you think, you said something before and it also struck me, like that people create their goals based on what they think they should, like what they think their goals should be.
Yeah.
Which always strikes me as like, I guess I learned that lesson when I was 21, when I first did the Landmark Forum. I realized that I was going to be a lawyer because everyone around me believed that that's what I should be doing. And I just bought that hook, line, and sinker. And since I was the age of 12, like my entire life was go to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
It was that moment where I kind of like looked for the first time, I was like, wait, is this my choice? Or is this some crap that I bought from all these other people?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people are kind of stuck in that same place with everything. Where do you think people get their shoulds? Like, where's somewhere that they can look to kind of examine, was this really my goal or someone else's?
That's a great question. I think that, like you said, everyone around you is probably your parents, your teachers are like, wow, you're really outgoing and you're really passionate and articulate and this would be perfect for you. And, it's interesting. Often, so we have those, forces that we can like point to. So like our parents, our teachers, our significant others, whoever. But then there's also invisible forces like, society at large, this ambiguous thing that tells us, what does success look like? Or, if you're a good person, then you should be doing X, Y, and Z. And even though we're aware that that may be the script, we still think we're invincible to those influences. But we're all permeable and we're in our environment, just like, Guy was saying that, the environment impacts, you, like we have an agreement with the environment. And so we need to first assess what that environment is.
Absolutely.
So I think that, in research and science, some language to describe, the distinction between what's being driven from within versus what's imposing on us is intrinsic goals versus extrinsic goals. And so I think we might have talked about this in one of our happy corners maybe, but, intrinsic being like, this is like, by doing this, I feel a sense of freedom. I feel a sense of like being more of myself. I feel a sense of like, self-love. Like, this is like so good. I just want to like lean into it. Like, I don't even need to have energy to go towards. It's like I'm just driving towards this naturally. Whereas extrinsic goals, that's where it's like it's about obligation, or it's about the should, or it's about trying to make someone else happy, or and those kinds of, the sensation there is like, I always talk about, it's like feeling handcuffed. It's like feeling smaller. It's like feeling like, going uphill. And so, we can certainly kick ass and, achieve whatever it is we want, but, we can also achieve it by like ease and flowing down like a river, or we can like achieve it through like huffing and puffing. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I like to remind people that you have a choice in not only what you choose, but how you go about achieving it. And so, I'm not saying you don't work hard, but your inner may experience a sense of suffering or a sense of ease as it's going about achieving those goals. So I don't know, that was a very long answer to your question.
No, it was good, actually. It was good. Now, I wanted to say, like you had brought up the emotions that you want to feel when you create that goal. I mean, if you get someone to a place where they're self-loving, where they are accepting like all the things that people really want when they're talking about their bodies anyway, because that's what they're trying to accept their bodies, love their bodies, that kind of stuff. But if you just accept and love yourself, like a natural extension would be like, I want to work out. You're not willing it anymore. It just becomes part of your self-expression as a healthy being, right? Like it becomes as a form of a function. And that's why it's like the being is so much more important than the doing, but people, we're a doing society, where instead of a human being society, we become a human doing society. And we just do this shit trying to become who we want to be, because that's what we've been taught. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Like, it's so critical to get well with your being, but it only happens when you're willing to let go of past the things that you really believe that have like, oh, this is who I am, and that's not possible for me, and I'm not lucky, and this person is lucky, and all this weird, again, that's superstition too, right? Like my favorite line today, I am obsessed with this line. Louis Pasteur said, chance favors the prepared mind. And for the outside world, for people who aren't prepared or who haven't taken the time to educate themselves or have experiences that have you have paradigm shifts, when you look at people who are successful, you go, oh, they got lucky. They just, they grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many people we know that are successful? That's never the case. It's like never the case. It's always the exact opposite. It was like they were poor, they were beaten, they were raped, and it's like something along the lines happened. They woke the fuck up, and now they're like a completely different human being. But, I think if most people understood what it took to really achieve, if you told them that up front, I don't even know if they would get started. And then people have a tough time enough getting started as it is. But like I was reflecting yesterday, I made a video for everyone just to share about 4 years. And I'm like, I had no idea what it would take to build this company. I had no idea the challenges that we would face. And I think we went through them for the most part pretty gracefully with like, a few hiccups here and there. But I think me being me, I probably still would have done it, even knowing the stuff that we had to go through, especially now, like seeing the outcome. But I don't know that a lot of people could. I really don't. They're not prepared for it.
I mean, look, our mind was honed. We had like a spear gun going into this. We developed bazookas, but like, we had a really well-trained mind. I think most people start ventures on their own and then realize like a few months in, like, whoa, I need to get my head in this game. Like, and then they start, self-development and books and videos and seminars and stuff. Like, we had done it for 10 years.
Now they're fighting two battles because they're fighting the business and they're fighting themselves.
Exactly. Like, we knew going in, no conversations around fear. No, like, we were unstoppable force. I think that's a big reason we're at where we are, like 3.5 years into the business.
Totally.
But that's something that people don't understand till they get into the sandbox. We got into the sandbox with like all these tools that most people don't have. And true. I think that's the reason that, our thing is Educate, Empower, Prosper, is because we realize that you need the education. You need to then empower your mind And then that's going to lead to your prosperity. And it's a lot of people, like you said, are focused on the doing. So Sal, I want to ask you something, because you said something and then it kind of left me with like, I'm not sure if this is where you were going with it.
Yeah.
So in regards to extrinsic, intrinsic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This is the way I heard it, and maybe I completely off base, but
yeah.
it sounds to me like most people are creating extrinsic goals, which in my brain, and I know there's no like good or bad, whatever, but in my brain, let's call them ineffective. That's the way it occurred. Like extrinsic, ineffective, intrinsic, much more powerful, much more effective. So first, and then I have a follow-up question to that. First, is what you were saying like one is better than the other?
I believe that intrinsically, if you are motivated intrinsically, you're more likely to be successful.
Okay.
And you're more likely to be satisfied and healthy when you achieve what you're doing.
Yes.
Because when you follow through with, there's a continuum. And so, the most extreme of the extrinsic goals that we set up for ourselves are where like we have no choice, like someone has a gun to our head. And so like we just got to do it. But as you move towards intrinsic motivation, there's some that you do because, you know that you don't really want to do it, but it's important. So, so because it's important, you can get a little bit more lined. So I don't want to brush my teeth every day, but I know it's important. So I do it. On the very right-hand side, like, so if you imagine a continuum and there's intrinsic goals, are the goals that like we leap towards. So like, I want to play with my baby, or I want to like do this teleseminar because I'm excited to talk to people about this kind of stuff. So that we leap towards, so there's a continuum. For me, like setting up the technology to do it, not so exciting for me, but I do it because I know it's important and it will help me, do the stuff that I want to do. So there's a continuum. So what I talk about with people is that you can try to transform something that's extrinsic to be more intrinsic by identifying how is this laddering up to my bigger goals? How is this laddering up to what I really, really want? And so that can help. So if you're kind of stuck in a situation where you kind of have to do it, is there a way you can transform it to see it in a new way and how it may be contributing to something that you really, really want?
That was actually my follow-up question.
Oh, okay.
My follow-up question was literally like, can you alter? So like when people are writing their goals, right? Obviously there's going to be a few extrinsic goals on there because I feel like that's the way our mind is programmed.
Yeah.
And my question was going to be, can you transform from extrinsic to intrinsic? And I think you just answered that. Yes, you can.
Yeah, like say I want to earn an extra $100,000 this year. Well, so what is that $100,000 about? So, maybe that's extrinsically motivated because you think money is power or it's going to get you all these things. But you can also transform that as this will enable me to do the things that I really love or spend time with the people I really love, or this will give me a sense of freedom so that I could just travel, whatever. But if you're just worried about the paycheck itself, then that's where people get caught up. And then they get the paycheck, but then they're like, fuck, my life still sucks.
Yep.
And then identity crisis, or all these things start.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I did want to mention too, one of the most powerful things that I've noticed with my coaching clients that we work on when we ask, well, what do you want to let go of? A big thing that people don't realize is there's an identity that they've had, whether it's, as this big shot, entrepreneur or, mother or father or, responsible person or someone who always gets it right or whatever. Like a lot of times what we end up working on is how do we shed the sense of identity that's no longer maybe serving where you're going. And so that's also a nice place to look, is like, is there a certain place you've identified with that maybe is no longer serving you? Yeah.
So probably most things you believe are not serving you, and unfortunately, you didn't choose those things for the most part, right? They happen through circumstance. They were passed down to you through family, and again, it's not necessarily sometimes what they were doing; it's sometimes what they weren't doing or what they weren't saying, and you just pick up on it. And this, I never really thought that. I was like, well, we grow up, we're really happy, and then we get like all fucked up when we're teenagers. The truth is that stuff is already in there. The programming is already in. It's just blossoming at that point in time because you find a new way to express yourself, right? Like that's like conscious, because up until the age 7, a child is not in their conscious brain at all. They're like it's all reptilian, it's all limbic. That's why they're like flipping out one second and then they're fine the next second. There's no like, it's not like there's no consciousness. There's no, what's the word I'm looking for?
Cognitive.
Yeah, they're not like, they don't assess things yet. They're not assessing
Analytical.
Their environment, how this is impacting. They're very reactionary. It's all emotional. It's very limbic. So they're just off. And then at 7, it like starts setting in and you start like thinking, putting yourself in those circumstances. Oh, how is that going to impact me? How is that going to impact other people? You don't think that way until you're like 6, 7 years old. So that means the programming is already in. It just takes another 7 years for it to be like, like basically like come up out of you. But I didn't want to shift the conversation unless you were ready for that. I wanted to ask you guys a question also. Do you have any more you wanted to ask?
No, go for it.
Okay. So I have this experience this year, and I don't know if it's because I'm allowing it or I'm psychically or intuitively more connected this year than I have been in the past. January this year has a really different feel to it than any other January I can remember so far. And I've been doing a lot of research on this, and from an energistic point of view, the next 3 years on the planet are extremely important for our ascension as a species, essentially. And again, I know this because I really started kind of studying astrology and what's really happening and how that impacts us. And I know that seems so woo-woo to a lot of people, but it's a science like any other science that's been documented for thousands of years. So like how many things can we look at that have been documented for thousands of years? This has, right? And if you ever really go get real reading, you'll be like, holy crap, that is exactly who I am. It's creepy. But how it's appearing is by challenges, right? Because when people want to grow, it's not like the world's like, all right, here you go, silver platter, have fun. It's like struggle, 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 and then like a little bit of sunlight, right? And I noticed that everyone's dealing with something like hard shit suddenly, like out of nowhere. Deaths are happening around a lot of people I know, a lot of transition in the workplace and career and finding purpose and finding passion. And part of it could just be the age group and demographic that I'm in. I'm not sure, but it just has a feel to it this year. And I was just wondering, have you guys kind of been experiencing the same thing? That this like beginning of the year has kind of a different feel to it, or has it just kind of been like business as usual?
That was my experience actually in 2014. Like I looked at our family, and by family I mean like our closest group of friends and things like that. And everyone in 2014 had massive, massive shifts. Getting married, having babies, switching careers, moving to different countries, states, really big, like life altering kind of moments. And I feel like 2014 was that year where everyone just planted seeds. Like no one really, it didn't feel like anyone had an eruption of just like results, but people were like head down working, like
very foundational year.
And very intentional. And I feel like this year it's actually been more of a little bit of the carryover, but with a different angle. Like people are just ready to reap what they sowed. And that's been my experience so far of 2015.
I feel like I don't know what's this year Chinese astrology wise? Is
I
it
don't know.
like
Oh, we can find out quickly.
Yeah, we can truly find out. Google knows all.
I remember last year it was like Year of the Horse, and that was all about like stampeding forward and like moving forward really fast. And I remember I really identified with that in terms of like lots of travel and like getting pregnant and all these things happening. And so I did feel, I noticed with my kind of close group.
Goat, by the way. Year of the goat.
What is that? What is that?
That means you
about?
can eat anything this year. Anything you want.
I don't know what it says really.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I was just curious. I know you guys are just tuned, and I'm just wondering what your experience is.
Continue on, and I will read some stuff.
Okay. I guess for me, I just feel like I'm probably, it's like been nonstop transformation is what I feel like. Just look like, and that so Lenore is definitely helping me with that. But when you are in the midst of transformation, sometimes it feels like you are like falling and you don't see the bottom. You're like, whoa. So I would say, I have that a lot more frequently now, but in an exciting kind of way.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like, it's not always easy, but it's good stuff.
So far I got that it's a calm, peaceful year.
Oh. Okay, well, not my experience at all.
Has not been a goatful year for many people around me.
Yeah, so I don't know. Not that much going on there, but
All right, well, we'll leave it alone. I was just curious. So it wasn't like a big thing I wanted to go off of. I just wanted to kind of see where you guys thought so far, because I've been having and I didn't mean it in a bad way. Actually, I meant it in a really awesome way. Like I just see people suddenly going for it. I think what's really beautiful about the opportunity today really is like this rise of the entrepreneur mentality.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't necessarily going for it yet, but I mean, definitely in San Diego, and I'm sure in other places too, it's definitely a really big part of the conversation. People are really starting to wake up to that being passionate is important. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I talk about it a lot, because I do. It's just I don't know what could be more important anymore. I really do have suddenly this inclination that if people pursued passion, we can just about heal anything that's happening on this planet right now. There's an aliveness and a quality to people that are pursuing something that's important to them that you just don't get with people who have become mundane and apathetic to the way that it is. And what I wanted to offer people this year, as occurred to me, is when you're in the job place, you're completely disconnected from what you're creating, because usually when you're in a job place, you're a cog in the wheel. So you don't really get the impact or the feeling of the end product as much as like, I'm just putting this stick in here and that's pretty much all I do. And you feel worthless because of it, right? But getting into that space, someone told you what your value is. When you get a job, they're like, we're going to pay you $20 an hour. Basically, is them saying you're worth an hour. Like I'm telling you, you're worth $20 an hour. Now, just like everything else we've been saying, your environment, right, impacts you. You just put yourself in an environment that's now feeding you back that you're basically worth $20 an hour, which is like a little bit above slavery, essentially, in today's world. So, people who are entrepreneurs, again, just that like small shift in paradigm is we're choosing what our value is. Right? We're in a conversation for, this is what my time is really worth. And your most precious commodity is your time. Only thing you can get back, and the only thing that's running, like literally running the fuck out on you. So I don't know what could be more valuable than that. But when somebody says $20 an hour, you're like, that's how you feel. You feel $20 an hour. When you're like, it's $1,500 an hour, this is how you feel, right? Like, But it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to believe that right away, but it's something to work towards. How do I become a person who gives enough value in the world that others perceive me as $1,500 an hour, that I perceive myself as $1,500 an hour? And I think this is what I'm going to talk at least a lot about in the first quarter and second quarter of this year, is this choose your value conversation. And I'm talking about it through monetary point of view because I think it's easy to relate to, but I'm saying spiritually, I'm saying physically, I'm saying in every facet of your life, choose your value. Because people who are fat and obese, you don't have to go very far to find out what they think their value is in society, what their value is spiritually, what their value is to their family. They're showing you, right? And if we have that big of a problem, think about what people are walking around with every single day. So I'd really like to start bringing this into the conversation in terms of choose, man. You can choose your value, and now do what you need to do, be who you need to be, educate yourself how you need to educate yourself to learn how to become a person who's valuable in that space. And then, I mean, transformation is inevitable if you do that.
So let's wrap it up with that, because I really think that that's like a perfect transition to your teleseminar that you're about to do, which is you might have listened to this Happy Corner session and been like, you know what? There's some shit I want to like look at in my life, or there's some shit I really want to change in my life. And the best way to do it is actually to go through some sort of process where you make it real, where you have the ability to realize what are the things you actually want to achieve. Not just like, I love the example you said. A lot of people are like, well, I want to lose 20 pounds. Well, you've said that probably the last 15 years. It still hasn't happened. Like, there's a reason. Saying it this year with the magical powers of the goat is not going to make a difference. Right? So my recommendation to everyone is the links will be below this video. If you're listening on YouTube, there will be in the resource guide on satoriprime.com/podcasts with an S. Find this episode and go join Stella on the 29th. Stella, what time is it?
It's 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern p.m.
Perfect. So you'll have all the links there, and like go figure out how to actually make these goals that you've been talking about for probably decades a reality. So that's my final thought on that. You too?
Sounds good to me, man.
Okay, Stella, anything you want to leave them with?
You know what? I just think it's not that hard. So to really achieve what you want, sometimes it's just about looking at things differently.
Yes.
And so I'm really excited to share with you guys how to do that, because it's so subtle and it's so small, but you just have to see something differently that you might be in front of your eyes, but you don't really realize it. And so we're gonna help you see differently this year. So,
again, chance favors the prepared mind. Get your minds prepared, and you'll see opportunity. You'll see opportunity everywhere. I'm, and this is the last thing I'll say. I honestly believe that every single thing everybody wants in their life is alive and present right now in your life. You literally do not have the eyes to see it. Like, you are wearing the wrong pair of glasses that's blocking that from your view. And you know what Stella's going to do with you guys is basically help you take off that pair of glasses that has been inhibiting you from seeing what's available to you in your life right now. We live in a world of infinite possibility. It's infinite. It's infinite all around you, all the time. Never goes away. Constantly around you. And it's just about, again, you know, I used to think that you learned stuff so you knew shit. Now I learn stuff so I realize how little I fucking know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the opposite side of the coin that I'm really interested in, because that unknown place, that discovery is where the power is. The knowing, that's all fucking ego. Hey, look, I look really smart. Hey, this is cool. Hey, look at all this shit I can tell you about stuff. And trust me, to an extent, I know that I do that, right? Because in this intrinsic world, that feels good. But in the spiritual sense, it gives you nothing. But like living, I remember years ago, there was what the bleep do we know? And he ends the whole movie with, live in the mystery. And I couldn't agree more. And for me, education has brought me to mystery, ironically. But again, it's like everything arises together. You're saying like extrinsic, intrinsic. You can't split those two worlds. One leads into the other, and they intertwine, and they move like this. And it's like one creates the other. And same thing here. It's like education. It's not to get you out of mystery. It's to put you back in. Like, so you can also have this intertwined experience of both worlds all the time. So, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with all that, but that's that.
Well, Stella, so good to have you back.
Yeah. So good to be back.
So good to have you back.
So good to be back.
So now she's back in the game. Yeah. We'll be having more happy corners.
Yes.
In the meantime, go experience Stella on her own, like in her own element, and head over to that teleseminar on 29th. All the links will be here. It's free. I mean, if your future means anything to you, then show up and listen. Like, I mean, how can you argue with a new shift in that? It's just amazing.
We'll send an email too a few days before to our list, and I'll definitely be there.
Yeah, I want to be there as well. Yay! So, love you. Welcome back,
you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Go take care of your little one.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Awesome. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Performance Enhancing Podcast. We've taken this pep talk and created a custom action guide so you know exactly what action steps to take now to grow your business. Just head over to satoriprime.com/podcast and download it for free. Also, please leave a comment and rate this podcast on iTunes. It'll help us get the word out. Thanks for listening. Now, go and implement. We'll see you next time.
Did you run through doors till you hit the floor? Did you read my